No way, punk!
Hello everybody, Benominous here. So here we are. Oops. Time to talk about food shortages, people. Now that everybody's talking about it. I've been talking about it for the past 2 years. About this plan to short our food. They want to starve us out, people. So here, Biden says to expect real food shortages due to Ukraine war. Yeah, that's why. That's why the food shortages are happening. No. It's because they've been spending the last 2 years trying to, well, it's been longer than that, trying to destroy our food system. And this, they can use it as a convenient reason to blame it on, a convenient excuse for. Well, it does have an effect, though. It will exasperate the situation, of course. Joe Biden said the world will experience food shortages as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and production increases were subject of discussions at a Group of 7 meeting on Thursday. This was March 24th. It's going to be real, Biden said at a news conference in Brussels. The price of the sanctions is not just imposed upon us, Russia, it's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. Well, doesn't that mean it's a bad thing that you did that? So we're going to show Russia by sanctioning them, but it's really actually hurting us. Well, then stop doing it. No, they don't want that. Anyways, we'll move on from there. We have Ukraine conflict. Food crisis worse since World War II, says UN WFP World Food Program Chief David Beasley. Beasley. I just think of Beasley for some reason from Care Bears. Executive Director of the UN World Food Program told the UN Security Council that already high food prices are skyrocketing. You haven't even seen high prices yet, people. It's gonna get much worse, and we'll go through that in a little bit here. UN Food Chief warned Tuesday the war in Ukraine had created a catastrophe on top of a catastrophe, and will have a global impact beyond anything we've seen since World War II, because many of the Ukrainian farmers who produce a significant amount of the world's wheat are now fighting Russians. David Beasley, Executive Director of the UN, we already know this, why do you keep saying it? His agency was feeding 125 million people around the world before Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, and Beasley said it has had to start cutting their rations because of rising food, fuel, and shipping costs. He pointed to war-torn Yemen, where 8 million people had just had their food allotment cut 50%, and now we're looking at going to zero rations. What about the poor people of Yemen? They're going to get hit really hard with this, eh? The war in Ukraine is turning the breadbasket of the world to breadlines for millions of its people, while devastating countries like Egypt, that normally gets 85% of its grains from Ukraine, and Lebanon, that get 81% in 2020. Lebanon, isn't that the one that had its port blown up? Hold on just a second, because I know I covered it. Just head on over to Hive. I got a lot of my blogs in the tabs here. We're going to go through a bunch of them. So buckle up, buckaroos. It's going to be a longer video, because I just can't do it all in segments. It's just, there'd be too many parts. So just going to do as much as we can. And I'll try not to bore you. It's down a ways. This was not planned. This is why here I am searching. A lot of these blogs are just thumbnails now, because the videos they're attached to have been deleted by YouTube. I just haven't gone in, because I know some of them were or had already been copied to Odyssey, so they would still be there unless they're over my threshold because it's based on your sub count, how many minutes you get. So some of them are still up on Odyssey. So eventually I'll have to switch over the links so that those videos are relevant or accessible, I should say, in these thumbnails. Oh man, where is it? Did I pass it just not thinking about it? Because I'm busy yapping. No, it's further down. We're getting closer. Hold on. Hang in there, folks. Hang in there. We're almost there. Was it really before then? Jeez. Okay, yeah, we're getting close to it, I think. Oh my goodness. I really didn't think it was this far down. No way. This has gotta be... I must have passed it. I'm sorry for this. No, okay, it has to be here because before Jeff passed away. Am I just not seeing it? Am I blind? Oh, it's right there. Beirut. Where's Beirut? Oh yeah, I don't have access to that video. Oh, I'm so sorry. Beirut, is that Lebanon? I need to know. It's actually in one of these other blogs, but I don't want to search for it at the moment. Yeah, capital Lebanon. That's the one that got bombed. Their port, which carried, or no, they were blaming it on an explosion because of improperly stored stuff, but the story didn't really work, make sense, and it looked more like like a bombing kind of a situation. But that's the capital, and their port that was carrying a lot of their wheat for the year blew up, and then they were like that was a major part of their food supply. Anyways, we'll move on from that. So they get 81%. They got 81% in 2020. Ukraine and Russia food this is the food rations from the World Food Program. Ukraine and Russia produce 30% of the world's wheat supply, 20% of its corn, and 75 to 80% of the sunflower seed oil. The World Food Program buys 50% of its grains from Ukraine, he said. The war is going to increase the agency's monthly expenses by USD 71 million because of rising food, fuel, and shipping costs, he said. That will total USD 850 million for a year and mean that there will be 4 million less people will be able to reach. He said the World Food Program is reaching about 1 million people inside Ukraine with food now and will reach 2.5 million over the next 4 weeks, 4 million by the end of May, and hopefully 6 million by the end of June. The price tag is about USD 500 million for the first 3 months, and we are short by USD 300 million, so we're going to need to step up, he said. And it goes on. We're not going to read all of it, but I remember a video of them talking about in 2020 the food crisis that the World Food Program was warning us about. They're saying how that number of how many they were needing to feed would increase by like a shitload more, and I don't remember the exact number, but I'll have to find that at some point. Canada to help offset food and energy shortages caused by Ukraine crisis, PM Trudeau. Ottawa, March 29th. Reuters, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau said on Tuesday that his government can help the world overcome food and energy shortages in the coming months that may result from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The coming months, Canada can help put food on the table and keep the lights on, Trudeau said in a speech in Vancouver, centered mainly on the government's efforts to cut greenhouse gas emissions. The leaders I spoke with in Europe over the last couple of weeks are clear. They don't want to end their dependence on Russia oil and gas. They want to accelerate the energy transformation and clean and green power. And Canadians have a big role in that work. So let's stop that. Yeah, I can't access more without signing up, so we'll move on from there. Here's from The Guardian, March 24th. War in Ukraine could lead to food riots. Yeah, that's something I've talked about 2 years ago. Executive Ngozi Ojono, that's a long name, says, or long 3 names, says impact of conflict on food prices and hunger could be substantial. Rocketing global food prices as a result of the war in Ukraine could trigger riots from those going hungry in poor countries. The head of the World Trade Organization has said, that long, weird name, war on food producing countries against hoarding supplies, and said it was vital to avoid a repeat of the you-know-what pandemic when its rich countries were able to secure themselves the bulk of vaccines. Oh, here we go. Don't want to be securing the bulk of food. Well, I believe China spent the last 2 years bulking up their supply. Why don't you go after them for all that food that they were buying up? Not going to do that, though. In an interview with The Guardian, WTO Director General expressed concerns about the knock-on effects of Russia's invasion, stressing the dependence of many African countries to food supplies from the Black Sea region. I think we should be very worried. The impact of food prices and hunger this year and next could be substantial. Food and energy are the 2 biggest items in the consumption basket of poor people all over the world. So the poor countries are really going to get hit hard here. You know, who else is going to be hit hard here? Hit hard because of that? It will be us. Obviously, they don't want to freak you out just quite yet, but they're getting there. Let's move on. Just want to get through these parts fast so we can get to the other stuff. Action plan to avert shortages. As Ukraine war escalates, government seeking alternative markets for supply of food products. The speculation about the short and long-term impacts of the war in the Ukraine running rampant, the Greek government is taking action to shield the country from possible shortages, not just in energy, but in food as well. So it's April 4th, 2022. More specifically, a plan was adopted last week at the meeting chaired by Prime Minister Kyriakos these names, that foresees searching for alternative markets for the supply of food products, providing incentives for increased domestic production, something that we should be doing here in the West, but they are trying to starve us, so, that's going to happen. Instead, they'll want to prevent more food growing, and introducing supervisory mechanisms to prevent shortages. Probably more data surveillance and machine learning, no doubt. The plan, which was based on a proposal by Rural Development and Food Minister Georgios Gigantis. I didn't want this to read. What's it doing? Concerns and mechanisms and controls to ensure the adequacy of products that have so far come from Ukraine and Russia, such as bread, wheat, maize, and sunflower oil. Now, Greece will seek alternative markets for the supply of these products in places in Bulgaria, Romania, and other European countries, United States, and Canada, but also, if required, Argentina for animal feed. If we will look to India, or it will look to India and Malaysia and the South American continent. The government's decision to take action against possible food shortages stems from a long list of concerns, including the fact that 70% of the country's needs for bread, wheat had been met by Ukraine and Russia. It is unknown when and if these imports will resume. Indicatively, Greece's flour industry reserves are sufficient for about 2 months, while corn imports to Greece so far amount to 500,000 tons. Regarding the monitoring and control to ensure market adequacy, the steps envisaged includes the reintroduction of the Food Safety Committee. The ministerial decision is due to be issued on Monday, moreover obliging companies in the sector to declare their reserve stocks. And if you know anything about U.S. stocks, you would learn that they don't have any stocks. They don't have like a wheat reserve. They sold all that off. I believe Canada sold the control of their wheat to Saudi Arabia years ago, thanks to Stephen Harper, harbinger of death. Anyways, Rubio, Loomis call on Biden admin to allow farming on conserved land to help global food shortages. Yes, they're begging him to drop this 30 by 30 shit and start growing some goddamn food. But that's not going to happen because they want to starve you into submission. So sends Mark Rubio and Cynthia Loomis urge the Biden administration to allow farmers to access millions of acres to conserve land in an effort to combat global food shortages, inflation, and supply chain issues, in part prompted by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In a letter, Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, the senators requested the farmers be immediately provided flexibilities to use Conservation Reserve Program (CRP) lands for crop production in an effort to stabilize the price of food. Before the war, Ukraine was one of we already know this. Blah 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 blah. This reality has already contributed to a sharp rise in grain prices since the invasion began on February 24th, and could have lasting impacts of global food prices and supplies worsen the already poor economic conditions within the U.S. and lead to famine and conflict in some of the world's most impoverished nations. They added, the senators also pointed to the rising U.S. corn prices, which help feed livestock, noting that the influx was due to market fears, inflation, disruptions within the supply chain. Given the integral role of corn within our economy, the decreasing price of corn certainly contributed to severe economic harm within the United States, around the world, they noted. Development comes more than 5 weeks after Russia began its invasion of Ukraine. The former Soviet Union nation is known as a key exporter, blah, 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 blah. All right, so there they beg for something to be done. Also, our little furry friends are going to be suffering due to this stuff because there's going to be a shortage on their end.
Struggling to find pet food from brands you trust.
Let's go back a little bit.
Friends, like
we're not going to watch the whole video.
Pet food
from brands you.
One that didn't last very long.
This is
the demand for pet food in the community has also been so high.
Yeah,
Corpus Christi, Texas.
With a lot of products, finding pet food from brands you usually purchase is another concern for residents. Our Simone Simpson spoke with a local pet owner who's been struggling to find food for his dog Gordo. She joins us live right now in studio. Simone?
Rudy, Leslie, whether it's a staffing issue regarding a lack of production to get pet food in stores or keeping up with the higher demand, it's difficult. All you gotta do is look at the empty pet food shelves. They speak for themselves.
But I've been seeing them for a while, a couple of months and all that, for a good while.
Jesus Signs has been trying to find pet food, but has been running into empty aisles consistently.
Just about everywhere, everybody's low on dog food, cat food, and all that.
The folks at PAC are doing what they can to help clients like Signs find food for their four-legged friends like Gordo.
We had the food drive last week. We're giving food to people that, as long as we have it, and we have another truck coming in within the next week. We will continue to do this as often as we can, as long as it's available.
PAC has partnerships with organizations like the Humane Society of the United States and Chewy.com. Together, they supply products for organizations like PAC, which in turn supports the community.
That's why we're able to get this food and give it to people like Mr. Signs who have pets that they need it, and they just don't have it at the stores right now.
Cheryl Martinez is encouraging the community to follow PAC's Facebook page and Instagram to find out when the next pet food drive will be. If you're struggling to find pet food from brands you trust, we'll have links on our site connecting you with PAC. Leslie, Rudy.
All right, thanks, Simone.
Yeah, so something we tend to forget about when we talk about preparing our pantries, prepping, is our animals. You might want to, if you haven't already, start stocking up if you have pets. Because remember, your pets are dirty little carbon emitters. And don't think they won't get rid of them if they become a burden. But we all know what the real solution will be for animal feed, and that's going to be the bugs. The bug diet. That is one of the foods we'll be seeing rising up is for all this shortages is a transition to bug feed for livestock, and or you'll just be feeding the humans directly, because actually, if you didn't know this, it's a lot easier to there's a lot less rules when it comes to farming bugs for human feed than it is for animal feed. There's a lot more restrictions and policies in place, apparently. I just learned as I've been kind of researching the bug growing industry, kind of learning more what's going on there. And it's actually easier to feed to humans than it is to animal stock. But yeah, I definitely see this becoming a replacement for a lot of the pet food and animal feed for sure. They've been programming us for years to eat bugs. Oh god, Fear Factor is disgusting. And yeah, I did a whole long post on that. There's your scorpion pops, and mealworms, and crickets, little cricket flour. They really in 2019 they really tried to sell this as awesome, it was just hilarious. But anyways, we're not going to get stuck on there. Let's move on. A program that pays farmers not to farm isn't saving the planet. Politico, this was from 2021. Was that August 29th. President Joe Biden wants to combat climate change by paying more farmers not to farm, but he's already finding it hard to make it work. So yeah, they even though USDA this summer more than doubled key incentive payments for the program that encourages farmers and ranchers to leave land idle, high commodity prices are keeping it more worthwhile for growers to raise crops. On top of that, the plan known as the Conservation Research Program, Reserve Program, that's what those politicians were trying to get Biden to relieve some of that and let the farmers grow food. So yeah, this all took place last year. Oh, my cat Stella wants out of the room. I gotta let her out. So, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that happened last year. And here's a recent article, April 1st, 2022. I don't think it's an April Fool's joke. Newsom to pay farmers $2.9 billion not to grow food. $2.9 billion not to grow food. Sacramento, California would pay farmers not to plant thousands of acres of land as part of a $2.9 billion plan announced Tuesday aimed at letting more water flow through the state's major rivers and streams to help restore unique habitat in North America's largest estuary. I never heard of this word. Estuaries. The agreement, signed Tuesday between state and federal officials and some of California's biggest water agencies, would result in about 35,000 acres of rice fields left unused. Now, rice feeds a lot of people, right? And if you pair that with some black beans, you get an excellent protein. You get an excellent profile, good protein source, iron, all sorts of stuff like that. If you combine those two in a meal, and those you can store really well too. So think about that. That's a lot of food getting not getting grown, or about 6% of the state's normal crop each year, according to the California Rice Commission. The result, combined with other measures, would be up to an extra 824,000 acre feet of water each year flowing through the ailing Sacramento San Joaquin, I don't know, river delta. 1 acre foot of water is more than 325,000 gallons, which is usually enough to supply 2 acre. I guess I've been reading acre so much as average is acre. Average household for 1 year. Drought persists, and blah blah blah. Money will come from the state and federal governments, and the water will come from you. It comes from you, the taxpayers. It doesn't come from the state or federal government. It comes from you, the taxpayers. These don't have money. They don't have their own money. And the water agencies themselves, which for a first time have agreed to tax themselves to help pay farmers, who often have more senior water rights, not to plant some crops. We don't have to choose between healthy ecosystems or a healthy economy. We choose a path that provides for both. Governor Gavin Newsom said, "This is a meaningful, hard-earned step in the right direction." Yeah, okay. Is there more I need to read here? Today, all but about 5% of the wetlands are gone, consumed by a complex system of dams and canals that divert much of the water into large reservoirs. Those reservoirs are then used for drinking water in the state's major cities and irrigation for Central Valley farmers, who supply most of the nation's fruits, nuts, and vegetables. The agreement with the state announced Tuesday seeks to build back some of the ecosystem by letting more water flow through the rivers to create an additional 28,300 acres of additional habitat for animals. We're never going to be able to build it back exactly like it was, said Chuck Bonham, director of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, but there's a strong discipline in science about reconciliation ecology. Reconciliation ecology. About recreating enough of that mosaic that we can get functioning ecosystems back. That's the optimism. That's what's in this voluntary agreement announcement today. California's water is governed by a complex water rights system that is based on seniority. In the past, state and federal regulations would make the rules for how much water farmers and others could take out of the rivers. That prompted lots of lawsuits from water rights holders that would sometimes take decades to resolve. This time, state officials are trying something different. Instead of making the rules themselves, they sought to negotiate voluntary agreements with water agencies. The goal was to get everyone to agree upfront on what the rules would be, avoid lengthy, expensive lawsuits. Negotiations have dragged on since 2016. The state officials say the agreement announced Tuesday is a breakthrough. And yeah, governor said kind of day one to wait. The governor said kind of day one to us as a team. Okay, that doesn't sound right, does it? Am I just retarded, or is this written like a retard? No offense to retards. We need a different way of thinking about water in our state. We have. Okay, what the hell is going on here? Why are you screwing this up so much at the end? Is this AI writing this? We have to end these crazy managements by litigation. We have to end the water wars, said Jared Blumenfeld, secretary of blah, blah, blah. If you really want to, save on some water, stop letting, Nestle and them freaking drain the reservoirs, jackasses. Not going to do that, are you? All right, so we've read through some recent articles. about our looming issues, our current issues and looming issues with food, and we're having like really dug into the water shortages issue that's coming. Fortunately, I live by a pond, but yeah, we'll have to cover that at some point. So yeah, that's all said there. Let's start looking at what I had been covering and warning about for over 2 years now. I forgot to scroll up on this one, so bam. Coronavirus Pandemic Part 6. The Hunger Games Part 1. The new normal's volatility. Yes. What is that from? Do you know? A little quiz for you. Where'd I get that line? I'll tell you what. So yeah. I'm sure that by now you are all familiar with predictive materials that have been going around early in the whole you know what event, like Event 201 and Lockstep and many others. However, did you know about the Soros-funded global food crisis exercise that took place in November of 2015 that predicted what is happening or is about to happen right now? It's called Food Chain Reaction, a global food security game. Here's a little promo video that was done years ago.
Around the globe, food prices have risen about 40% in the last year.
The severe drought in the Horn of Africa has reached famine conditions.
Violence breaks out in Somalia as demonstrators protesting rising food prices clash with police.
We are facing a humanitarian problem.
The year is 2020. Our global food system is under stress from population growth, rapid urbanization, political instability, climate change, and disease. How will the world leaders respond? This November, leaders in government, international institutions in the private sector are put to the test. How will they handle rising stress in the food system? November 9th to 10th, 2015, Washington, D.C. Brought to you by, get that out of here, the CNA, which is, I forget. That's the one that, wait, or is it Centers for American Progress? I don't know what CNA is, I don't remember. Cargill, Mars, Center for American Progress, which is, what's his face, Tom, or is it Tom? Tom Podesta? Is his name Tom? John Podesta. And the World Wildlife Foundation. Oh boy. So yeah. There is that food chain reaction. We'll go to the PDF in a moment. But here was an article by I think it was the World Wildlife Foundation. How a new game helped us understand the future of food. And look at the domino effect. And one of the last tiles, at least in this picture, is our food. This is an issue from spring of 2016, so after the event happened. By 2030, the inevitable had happened. Coup in Pakistan, flooding in Bangladesh, the world's farmers were breaking under the pressure of volatile commodities prices. Reliable food supplies couldn't be relied on anymore. Policymakers across continents initially reacted to these developments with ad hoc responses, ranging from a meat tax. Isn't that what they want to do? I forgot to look this up. Oops, I caps lock. Meat tax. Isn't that what's happening right now? Answer me. Dodging Dutch meat tax price hike. Dodging Dutch meat tax price hike. McDonald's and Iwasta develop vegan bullshit. Voices complicated between blah blah blah. What is that? Meat's taxing the planet too, apparently. Okay, well, there's not many articles, is there? Maybe nothing recent, so let's go to the all. What we'll see in the all. Can America? Well, in 2020, they were talking about America swallowing a meat tax. Just push to meat. Despite activists' push to meat tax, libs rule it out. Blah blah blah. I swear, didn't I see something recently? Well, they've been talking about it for sure. I don't know. I thought I saw some articles. You know, sometimes they'll put some articles out and then they get buried pretty fast because they don't want people, thinking too hard about it. Where was I? The meat tax throughout the European Union to increase humanitarian aid. Prices continue unabated, and volatility in food prices became the new normal. Yes, they use the N-word, the double N-word there. Finally, governments, businesses, and multilateral institutions came together to increase food stockpiles and enact a universal carbon tax. Didn't we hear stuff about that? We've definitely heard about carbon taxes. Is there anything in the news about that yet? Manitoba is climbing prices and the federal carbon tax. So there's the federal carbon tax for Canada. No sector should back global carbon taxes. Yeah. Fed's looking to future-proof carbon pricing in Canada. IPCC, how global emissions can be cut by 43%. The world has less than 2 years to hit peak greenhouse gas emissions and begin a global wind down of fossil fuels. Blah, blah, blah. That was 24 hours ago. Federal carbon tax is set to rise April 1st. How will that affect gas prices? Anyways, so far, there's a lot of Canada carbon tax talks. But we'll see more of that. That's something we can expect as the end result for sure. Oh, where am I? Okay. So yeah, we move on. Pop up. We're just gonna skip through. I think they mentioned the food chain reaction game, and all of the WWF's food work is driven by one simple fact: by 2050, the world's population will approach 10 billion people, and the demand for food will double. No, it won't. It's not going to reach 10 billion people. We are shrinking. How can I get this through to people? I'm sure you guys understand this, but we are shrinking. There is no overpopulation. We're not increasing in our numbers. All we're increasing in is immigration or migration, because it's not even necessarily legal immigration. Illegal immigration. That's the only way that growth is happening in countries, and this is how they deceive people in the West. Our populations in Canada will definitely grow. We're going to get to 100 million eventually. Eventually, though, not in the next 10 years, but longer, like let's say 2050. I remember they had a plan. It's in some blog I wrote where I covered where they were talking about their goals to increase the population by up to 100 million or whatever in Canada. But as our foreign minister, I mentioned this on like the last video I did, I think, that our immigrations minister, who is an immigrant himself, said a few years back, he said that our population will grow, our population growth will be through immigration, 100% through immigration by the year 2036. Like somehow he knew that people would not give birth anymore. Isn't that interesting? But we'll move on because that's not what we're talking about here. Also, so yeah, I bitch slapped that nonsense with all the fertility dropping, global crash, and children being born. This was a July 2020 article. They've been since like say 2019, 2018 maybe. They've been talking about. They've been finally revealing the fact that the populations are actually dropping because of fertility crisis. We're having a childbirth crisis issue. We're depopulating, and they finally came out after the big scare for the last several decades about overpopulation. Well, they've done a very good job. They've been very effective at preventing childbirth, and we're actually going down, and we're having a crisis. They've even said this many times, like on Bloomberg and other established, controlled mainstream media outlets. So, research that shows that food insecurity is contributing not just to malnutrition, but also to food riots and social unrest in the politically fragile regions. Well, what happens when we have this food riots and social unrest here in the West? You think that the Black Lives Matter riots were bad. Throw food in the mixture and we'll see how bad things go. And it's not going to just be one group of people run by Marxist socialists, scumbags, but it'll be everyone. Since the value of role-playing is revealing how much people might respond to stressors in real life, the participants spent 2 days working through 4 rounds of play that covered a 10-year period. During that time, they had to manage the shocks, such as flooding, coups, and shortages. We are likely to see more of it, more in the future. It was a 2020 to 2030 time period that they did this exercise in. And it all started in 2020 with the food stuff. That's when they started to destroy our food supply with the whole, event that was occurring. But people didn't notice that part so much. They didn't notice the food part so much. They did have to line up. More and more people had to rely on what do you call them? Food donation. There was lineups for that. But that's just because of supply chain issues. Well, yeah, that was one of them. But they're also destroying our crops. And they keep doing it. They made decisions with limited information and quickly learned that business as usual wouldn't cut it in this simulated future. As Molly Jan, head of the adjudication panel and professor of the agronomy at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, noted in her closing remarks, volatility is the new normal. They say it backwards. She actually said the new normal is volatility, but it doesn't really matter. The new normal is volatility. While there is no silver bullet for food security, isn't that funny? Remember Theresa Mann, how she said that the shoot 'em up, the little Pokemon sticker, as I've heard some people refer to, the thing they put in your arm. She said that was not a silver bullet either. It wasn't a silver bullet for the event. Well, there is no silver bullet for the food security crisis, is there? We were able to test some of our assumptions about the linkages between global food security and conservation. And we learned a few important things. And that's the hideous creature that said the new normal is volatility. I wonder what tribe she associates with. She is a part of. Nose? And yeah, she's an interesting creature here. Do I want to read this to you people? You could just go to my blog and read it. It's very interesting. A little background here on her involvement in DARPA, crop science, yada yada. Now, the short-term, long-term divide. We know from hard experience that in times of instability, environmental concerns can take a back seat. This was reaffirmed during the game. During a simulated time of agricultural shortage, for example, the team representing the European Union temporarily rolled back environmental regulations. What are we hearing about right now? That's exactly what's happening. They want to roll back some of the, 30 by 30 plan, for example, to allow us to get some goddamn food on the plate so people don't starve. But that's a problem because you don't want to screw up their plans. European Union temporarily rolled back environmental regulations to quickly ramp up agricultural yields, underscoring the need for consistent conservation initiatives. It has also reminded us why we need to proactively prepare for disruptions to our global food system before they happen. Well, it seems like you guys keep doing that because you have all these exercises, yet you don't ever do anything that you do in the exercises, at least not in the practical way that you should be doing it. But you always do these exercises and then you act like, oh, we've never prepared for this. Oh, it's really annoying. From players to teammates throughout the game, it was abundantly clear by 2050 the solutions that will allow us to feed the world while protecting the planet only need to have been in place for a long time. Only by stopping agricultural expansion, augmenting agricultural production, increasing resource use, efficiency, and reducing food waste can we provide the food and nourishment we need while reassuring we are conserving nature for future generations. Now, what that was just said there is almost verbatim of what I've heard in a different thing, in a different proposal or whatever you would call it, by the Eat Lancet group and their plan for feeding the world in the future. It sounded almost exactly like this, and we're gonna go into that and talk about that in a bit. Okay, so what can I do about here? Anyways, so the translation separated from nature and synthetic goop. Private sector is particularly an indispensable ally. Cargill, the world's largest agribusiness, has been a strong supporter both of this initiative and the WWF's mission. Cargill, of course, has a vested interest in understanding the future of food, where will be grown, how it will be grown, and how it can be traded efficiently and sustainably. It's their business, but Food Chain Reaction showed us all too clearly that it's everyone's business to better understand the global food system. It is our hope that through the Food Chain Reaction game that this message will be carried forward and will start a movement toward greater sustainability, as John Podesta, founder of the Center for American Progress, noted in his remarks to the players. Serious cooperation on issues like food security, climate change, environmental preservation serves all of our interests. Now that we've looked together into the future, it's clearer than ever that there's no better time than to start today. Now, it's interesting how they did the whole Pizzagate thing, right? And this guy had been a very big part of it. Isn't that perfect for, like, say now that we're in the food crisis? And it's funny how it's pizza, right? Pizza's a food. I know it has other meanings now. But to put this guy as like he was a big part of that whole thing, a big focus on it, and now that we're into this issue now with the food stuff, we're going to go back and say, oh, what are people going to focus on? Are they going to focus on the food issue, or are they going to focus on John Podesta? You know how they put these people in place. so they can draw your attention away from the big issue and focus on the whole Pizzagate crap. That's just a thought I had. So, yeah. So, Cargo's been a big player. This was their article. I did go through it, and I don't need to read it. Oh, I do need to read this part. The game took the players from the 2020 to 2030 as it was projected. The decade brought two, not one, two major food crises. I think that's very important to understand. It wasn't one, but two. Can we expect two major food crises in this 10-year period? I think so. Maybe more. Maybe they're just giving us the Diet Coke version of what's really going to happen in this exercise. With prices approaching 400% of the long-term average. 400%. Right now, what are we in, like 20%? 400%. Imagine that. A raft of climate-related extreme weather events, governments toppling in Pakistan and Ukraine, governments toppling Ukraine, and famine and refugee crisis in Bangladesh, Myanmar, Chad, and Sudan. It even got fucking Ukraine in it. I didn't remember that part. Toppling governments in Ukraine. Wow. The realism of the exercise exceeded expectations, said former U.S. Senate Major Leader Tom Daschle, who's been a huge part of a lot of the bullshit that's been happening to us for decades. He acted as a mentor to the players. It's much closer to the real world than you think. The people who play here are very committed and serious. Now, that was Daschle then. Daschle now, or 2020 now. Here's a tweet by Daschle. COVID-19 is a great... COVID-19 is as great a risk to global food security as it is to global health. Senator Dole and I call on the U.S. to act before the world faces what the World Food Program USA Executive Director and World Food Program Chief has called a potential famine of biblical proportions. They were warning us about this since 2020, like I've been warning you since 2020, because this is the stuff I was researching then. That's all I have on food chain reaction, a global food security game. Oh, except a video. So there's a video. This is on Vimeo of the panel discussing, can climate change break the global food system? And you got your characters there. Then we move on as a famine. Okay, hold on. Okay, I think the noise has stopped. I can read again. As famines threaten the globe, the U.S. must answer the call. Opinion. This is by Bob Dole and Tom Daschle. For the first time in generations, Americans are looking at their own food supply with concern. Empty shelves at supermarkets, stories of farmers plowing under their crops, and higher prices for some food at checkouts have all served to startle us out of complacency. Well, no, it didn't. It didn't enough. No one woke up. Among those newly thrust into severe hunger by the virus, they will join millions of newly unemployed workers in the world's vast informal economy, many already living hand to mouth. COVID will disrupt local food supply chains, preventing subsistence and small-scale farmers from accessing critical inputs, working in their fields, and reaching markets. Thrust into severe hunger by the, you know what? Aha! Remember in the food chain reaction promo vid, the first one I linked, they mentioned disease as a factor. Right there. I took a screenshot in the video. There you go. But he has a UN hat on. Impacts will be hardest felt by food importing countries, including much of sub-Saharan Africa, landlocked countries, and oil exporting nations. In these places, border closures and the plummeting value of local currencies will make it harder to get much needed food into their countries. And then I did talk about the Beirut blast, wiped out 85% of Lebanon's grain stores, triggering worries of a food crisis. Lebanon imports most its food in the middle of economic crisis. Nearly 1 million in Beirut already don't have enough money to buy essentials. And there's the devastating explosion that took out a huge amount of their food supply. Even while global food stocks, and this is by the World Food Program, the Tom Daschle and Bob Dole, or whatever his name is. Even while global food stocks and plentiful and harvest forecasts optimistic, World Food Program reports that in the first quarter of this year, the cost of a typical basket of food had already increased severely by more than 10%, and at least 15 countries in Libya, for example, food prices have increased by 26% compared to March. In Lebanon, a country hosting over 1 million Syrian refugees, hunger protesters have taken to the streets. As much as 75% of the country is in need of aid. So there you go. What we learned from the 2007-2008 food price crisis, the last major upending of our global food system, is that when people lack access to affordable food, unrest is soon to follow. At least 40 countries around the world at the time saw food price riots, and at least one government, Haiti, was toppled. So that you can expect some serious shit to hit the fan here. Yeah. There we go. Is that everything I wanted to show in this one? I did like really long posts, people. Calm down, Batman. He wants out. So Tyson's Foods helped create meat crisis. Remember all the in 2020, all the meat places were closing off their stuff and all that stuff. They were then introducing their plant-based burgers, so people would buy that at the time that they could not provide the meat. Anyways, that's never here or there. Okay, Batman. Jesus. Yes, calm down. Yeah. Man, that cat was demanding. Anyways, let's go. Go. And also, yeah, the bird flu issue. That's another problem. There was since the meatpacking plants were closed, they killed off a lot of livestock. Billions killed and dumped in landfills. So ridiculous. And then the bird flu stuff, that's a whole nother post. That's a whole nother video I gotta do with all the bird flu stuff. I was covering that. And I warned about that at the beginning of the you-know-what event, that was happening all along in China. And it grew and it grew. This is February 3rd of 2020. China calls thousands of chickens after H5N1 bird flu outbreak. And here's the thing, they're diagnosing it with the PCR, right? And this is happening here in 2022. All over the West now. It's entered several provinces in Canada and states in the US. And they're using that to identify it, and all they have to do is get a positive, and then they wipe out your stock. It's only a matter of time. And there's an exercise for that, too, that I can show you, called Foul Plague. And it was done in the UK. So you can look that up, but maybe I'll upload it or something. It was in my major video of the synthetic bio weapon attack, whatever it was called. I forget right now. Oh, the printable pandemic. I'll link it in this video description. Yeah, I had some stuff on that in there. The foul plague event. North Korea suffers a major bird flu outbreak as Kim Jong-un admits first, you know what, Kobe case. Last major avian flu outbreak in North Korea was in February. Scientists have created experimental H5N1 vaccines to combat avian flu. They didn't make the jump. They've rubber stamped that sucker, the H5N1 jabber, in 2020. And if you go to what's it called, contagionlive.com, there is an article. I don't know if I have it on here. I might have linked it in here. They had fast-tracked it. That's the word I was not rubber stamped. They fast-tracked it. So they're already stocking up on that for preparation. But they knew when it was, I believe it's for humans, not for animals. It was a vaccine for humans. Okay, let's keep going. So this is just all the stuff that was happening in 2020. I was covering it then. I haven't covered any of this stuff in 2022. But yeah, there's a lot to cover on that because it's rearing its ugly head, and it could be the pan 2 that Billy Goats was talking about. But they will use it to destroy small farms. That's a big thing there. That was all predictive programming, and I've covered that so long ago too. Disease chicken for dinner, USDA is considering it. They want to feed you rotten chicken. What's this? Rolls back food rules. Oh yeah, that's Food and Drug Administration. Remember, they rolled back for the 5th time during the pandemic was food rules where they could put anything in your ingredients. They could just put something that was similar, like, I don't know, give you some cricket protein for your, instead of your whatever meat protein. They could just keep the label the same, and then you will look like that in the end. God damn, these are long. Just seeing if there was anything. Okay, so that was all that mattered. There was the PDF for the food chain reaction. We basically already read what was important there. So you get that. And then part 2 had some stuff. Was how they were destroying small farms, and they continue to do it by paying them not to grow food. And kind of hard to feed people if you don't grow more food, right? Lots of issues. There was just stuff that kept devastating our crops. But I mean, there was heightened coverage of it too. Lightning killed 500 sheep. That's ridiculous. This one's all about like this half. This was a 2-parter article. I wrote 2-parter blog. I don't really consider them articles. My blogs. This one, Kim Jong-un ordered to hand over pets so they could be used as meat. Bird calls. So this is just the second half of it where it covered all the callings and the disasters that cause a lot of problems. And then there's always the locust disaster that's still happening in Africa, largest since 70 years. And how restrictions prevented them from using the pesticides they needed. And I'm not advocating for pesticides, but when you have a situation that's drastic and there's just no other way to take care of it, like that would have probably stemmed it, right? And then there's African swine flu. I think it's even making its way to the West now, or making its way over in quotation marks. And then there's China launches its Clean Plate campaign against food waste, where you can say you're in a group of 10, you have to order only 9 dishes, so 1 less per group. It's really messed up. While China bought up everything, stockpiled everything, sucked up all the food out of the world, and have the majority of it, and they're sitting pretty. Yeah, so. And oh yeah, let's talk about your government, your American government. I'm in Canada, so Let's talk about the U.S.'s food thing. Because in 2020, did you know your governments in all the states were stockpiling all the food? And they were stockpiling so much of it that they were filling up. Where is it? Do I not have a picture of it? I thought I had a picture of them. Maybe I got that later on. Anyways, there's a picture of like a stadium full of food. So here we go. Ocean Department of Agriculture stockpile tons of food to ward off shortage in the months ahead, nearly doubling demand for assistance. So this was all the 2020 situation. Oh, here we go. Okay, so. Hey, what's the deal? Where's the U.S. food reserves? Don't they already have food for this kind of thing? Oh, wait. Surplus food. U.S. food supplies dry up. This was in 2008. Washington. As the farm economy collapsed in the 1980s, the U.S. Department of Agriculture was saddled with mountains of surplus cheese, corn, and other foods. That is, socked away in warehouses and even caves. As recently as 2003, the USDA had to buy so much powdered milk to support dairy prices that beleaguered officials officials shipped some to U.S. ranchers for cattle feed. While the previous surpluses were costly and sharply criticized, much of the food found its way to the poor here and abroad. Today, says USDA Undersecretary Mark Keenan, our cupboard is bare. Food Security Wheat Reserve. Food Security Wheat Reserve, the FSWR, was a strategic grain reserve of up to 4 million metric tons of wheat held by the United States for use in meeting emergency food needs in developing countries, established by the Title III of the Agriculture Act of 1980. This reserve generally was to be used to meet famine or other urgent or extraordinary relief requirements. The FSWR was replaced by the Food Security Commodity Reserve. Under the 1996 Farm Bill, PL 104-127, Section 225, which has since been renamed the Bill Emerson Humanitarian Trust. The 2002 Farm Bill, the blah blah blah, extended the trust through 2007. The Bill Emerson Humanitarian Trust, the BEHT, is a strategic grain reserve of commodities and cash held in trust to supplement food aid available under PL 480 programs. The trust can hold up to 4 million metric tons of wheat, corn, sorghum, and rice. The authorizing statute also authorizes the trust to hold cash in lieu of commodities. So, what does that mean, folks? It means it doesn't have to hold any food at all. They'll just have cash to buy food. Yeah, that's really helpful. What if there's no food to buy? You know what I mean? So, you don't have a food reserve. You have money to help countries abroad. That's all. And 6 months of the pandemic, economic crisis, those costs gone down. So here we go. It just talks more about crisis. Dark winter. Solar minimum. End of post. Now, what was this? Where am I? Before we continue on, I know this has been going a while, and maybe I should wrap it up and do a part 2, since I shouldn't really go, like, I can 2 long posts instead of 1. I will say, I did this one 3 years ago. Global diet is coming. What's on the menu to this month? No, not meat. It's not your birthday. Plandopolis. If the world ate the USDA recommended diet, there wouldn't be enough food to grow it. This was 2018, that article. And look here, keep that word equity in mind. So back then I saw that word and I was like, I feel like that's going to be important. And it was very important in 2020 because all they ever talk about, equity. Equitable. The study, funded by the Canadian government grant through the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, sought to address the issues of sustainability and global diet. United Nations involved, of course. It's important to know that this may have global implications if we were to have everybody follow this diet, and there would be land limitations implementing it. Yes. Should be developed using not just health, but also global land use and equity as criteria. Be coordinated internationally. Navin Ramankutty, Professor of Global Food Security and Sustainability. Oh man, health guideline only focuses on what kind of macronutrient people get. They're just going to say, okay, you need to consume so much protein. It's not going to say where that protein source should come from, said Ramankutty, who was not involved in the study, and they rarely are when they talk about studies. And for sustainability, it makes a huge difference where the actual protein comes from. And I think to point that out is very useful. So the result that the Western Hemisphere is going to spare land by switching to the guideline makes sense, completely in line with intuition, he said. Same thing for Eastern Hemisphere, where a lot of people are not getting enough protein these days. If they switch to the guideline, clearly they will use more land. They're also going to be less malnourished. Feeding the world over the next generation is one of the biggest global challenges that we face, said Fraser, who holds the Canada Research Chair in Global Food Security. It is not an easy problem to solve. This is right up there with climate change. The message here is that eating healthy and sustainably is both necessary. It is a challenge, but it is also doable given certain changes that need to be made. And those changes include shifting to diets that are higher in fruits and vegetables, shifting to plant-based proteins, reducing waste, and investing in science to increase crop yields. If we don't do these things, we're going to need a heck of a lot more land. So yeah, it's just talking about the Global Food Council, basically. It's just their way of saying how we need a global food council that regulates everything we all eat around the world. We all eat the same diet, respective to our region, because there'll be slight differences, but it'll all be the same thing. Problem, food chain reaction, their solutions. Part 1, reset the table. Quote by Bertrand Russell. Diet injections and injunctions will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable, and any serious criticism of the powers that will become psychologically impossible. Even if all are miserable, all will believe themselves happy. You will have nothing and be happy, because the government will tell them that they are so. Diet, our food, injections, you know what, and injunctions will combine to shape us into the slaves that they want us to truly be. Oh, brave new world. So yeah, this is one of my favorite thumbnails I made, by the way. I made this, and it is dope, and I don't care. I just had to tell you that. So this one's all about the Rockefellers reset the table. I love that term lately. Great reset the table. And then I recently covered in my last video a reset to the whole you know what. The Kobe. So that everyone has to do it all over again. So Americans face hunger and nutrition crisis unlike any this country has been. So this is this one by the Rockefellers, this reset the table is based in what has been started in 2020, what was happening. So here's their solutions that they come out with to solve this problem. And it's changing from the Green Revolution, where they used pesticides and herbicides and GMOs to increase food production from the last food crisis. It's fed a lot of bellies, but it caused a whole lot of disease. They want to shift away from that to the new system. Immediate actions we need to take: strengthen nutrition benefit programs to ensure that children and families are fed. 2. Invest public and private funding in school food programs and as anchors of community feeding, huh? Number 3, expand food as medicine. Food as medicine, you sons of a bitch. Oh, you don't get to take that from us, okay? Socrates or whoever, or what's his name? Was it Socrates that said it? Food is medicine. Anyways, this is a long one I wrote as well. I relate feeding communities to 1984's food canteen place and how everyone has to eat together all the time because they're on constant surveillance. Well, they started these food halls just before you know what happened. Or was it food hall? Yeah, food halls. They call them food halls where people eat openly, like a food court, but it's out in the open. And it's the social eating aspect, I think, is something we could expect to see. Because it's easier to watch everyone when they're all in one place at a time, right? But that could be turned inward, where everyone only eats at home and they socialize in the metaverse. So either way, you're gonna get surveilled. Boris Johnson says I was too fat to be, as he reveals obesity plan. The obesity plan, people. 2020, Boris Johnson. Prime Minister today admitted struggling with his weight, but declared he was now turning his life around. He's still fat, so he didn't do anything. Meanwhile, shops will be banned from offering buy one get one deals on junk food and placing treats near stores and entrances and tills. Large restaurant cafes, takeaways must put calorie labels on menus so customers can make informed decisions. And adverts for food high in fat, sugars, or salt will be axed from TV and websites before 9 p.m. Watershed. Ministers would consult on expanding this to cover all times, days, and night. The document published today shows adults are eating 200 to 300 more calories a day than they need. Now, consider that they will use the calorie count as a way to restrict you. You know that like in their future, you're going to be super healthy, right? Quotation marks. Because of the food crisis, they can implement this where there'll be calorie rations. You'll be restricted you'll have calorie limits. Everyone's going to get real thin. I can tell you that. You ain't going to have fat people anymore. Or maybe we'll have really fat people just to balance it out, because, no fat shaming. I don't know, maybe they like to fuck with people. They did this whole fat shaming body image thing, but now with this crisis, because they don't want everyone fat, right? You can't eat more than you produce. It's a very interesting world, but I see calorie restrictions becoming a thing, especially with the whole pandemic and the food crisis. Hey, here's a Tesco asks shoppers to weigh their food bins to help cut waste. We do have a lot of food waste, people. That's one issue I can agree on. There's a lot of food waste. A lot of people waste food, and it's ridiculous. That's something that I would be for cleaning up, but I'm not for this other nonsense, and I'm not for the technocracy nonsense. So they want to have food waste by 2030. And yeah, dramatic change, lockdown driven the biggest change in food experience shortages for the first time. Consumers are being asked to rifle through their bins in order to weigh and record, document, surveillance to the AI, feed the AI their daily food waste in an ambitious trials that aims to reduce the 6.6 million ton mountain of food. And then they say 6 again because you gotta have the 3 sixes in there. And your food storage. So yeah, there's that. Then I already talked about the China's Clean Plate Initiative. And China also, if you didn't know this, has a facial recognition trash bins to make sure people recycle. Your smart bins in Beijing. Jiaxing district use facial recognition to which residents have good recycling behavior. This was 2019. The punishment for food waste will grow in severity just as they did with the COVID-19 health measures. Unregistered residents can also open the trash can with a button, but only residents can benefit from a reward system which gives out credits. Social credit system in China, people. That's coming our way for exemplary recycling behavior. After the trash has been weighed, corresponding reward credits are assigned. Rewards include food and, you get food. We'll feed you if you recycle. If you don't get food, I guess. And household products such as paper towels, salt, and eggs. Those who fail to sort their waste correctly are identified through, though it's unclear if there's any ensuing punishment. Yeah, they don't tell you that part. And here at the World Economic Forum, our good old friends at the World Economic Forum, the WEF, this AI rubbish bin will help fight food waste at Davos. That was the 2020 Davos. The Kito's smart food bin records everything that's thrown into it. The camera and AI system provides a detailed picture of waste that owners can act on. It cuts food waste by 40%, according to its makers. It will be in action at the World Economic Forum. I know me in Davos. So there you go. There's that. They'll be monitoring your food waste. Food waste is an issue, but the way they want to take care of it is not cool. Maybe just, I don't know. There's better ways, obviously. So here's your food as medicine. Before the pandemic, healthcare was experimenting with how to offer nutrition services for its patients. Health in Pennsylvania, for instance, patients with diet-related disease who are a part of the provider's insurance network are given prescriptions by primary care physicians to the network Fresh Food Pharmacies, or 666. Preliminary results indicate that those interventions can be even more effective than drug treatment. There's increased interest within the healthcare sector and among communities for greater integration of food as medicine interventions such as medically tailored meals and produce prescriptions with the aim to nourish people in order to strengthen us against disease. Now, when I think about the food as medicine, I often think about Camille of Please Stop the Riots' recent video, what keeps me up at night, with her talks about all the bacteria and stuff. Well, the way I can see is they will tailor these foods with these bacteria. They'll produce it with these bacteria tailored to your health, and you'll get your food as medicine stuff. And yeah, big freaking nightmare coming your way. You rule people through the gut. It's always been the case. Hunger is a ruling factor, and if you can change the bacteria in the gut, you can change the brain. You can change how people think, for good or for bad. Anyways, food is medicine. Regional food systems, people. A lot of countries are closing off their borders to exports, or like they're not exporting anything anymore because they need to keep their food for their people. Now, this will help feed this situation where I've been talking about for a while about the regional food programs, and I've detailed this in several videos in the past. Regional food hubs. This fits into the food halls as well, but what this really means is establishing smaller supply chains because, well, to better control populations. Harnessing the capacity of local and regional food systems, including their shorter supply chains, can reduce transportation costs and environmental impacts. That's how you solve the climate change problems, people. This is how you feed people while committing to your sustainability that they were just talking about a moment ago, as I was pointing out previously, and increase the flexibility and resilience of our food system overall and its ability to respond to shocks like COVID-19. Such regionalization, when intentionally and properly structured, can facilitate strong and equitable equity relationships between producers, processors, buyers, and consumers. Similarly, local and regional food systems must be internationally organized to encourage greater environmental sustainability to achieve that goal. Now, I used my previous city, thank goodness I'm out of there, as an example for the regional development, how they've been planning this out, because Edmonton, Alberta, Metropolitan Region Board, the 13 YEG metro municipalities, YEG is the area code for Edmonton metro municipalities, planning without boundaries, like without borders, standing as one region, 13 municipalities as one region, and speaking with one voice, one world, one voice for a vibrant and prosperous regional future. And yeah, Don Iveson was the mayor. He didn't run this year. There's new mayors now. We know there's a better way to grow, invest, and deliver the services citizens need at value they expect, and it starts with regional collaboration. We are stronger together. Anyways, so yeah, the Edmonton Metropolitan Region, by the numbers. In total, there are 21 diverse municipalities, 5 cities, 10 towns, and 2 villages, and 4 counties, with about 33% of Alberta's population, covering 9,439 square kilometers, or 1.4% of Alberta's landmass around Alberta's provincial capital city. Edmonton's metropolitan region is the second fastest growing region in Canada. There's a little promo video. We're not going to watch it. It's about Edmonton's metropolitan region growth plan. Reimagine, plan, build. Oh, everyone's so happy. There's your windmills and people waving at us. There's your farms right by the city. Overview. The Region Agricultural Master Plan is, the Regional Agriculture Master Plan is the first activity undertaken by the EMBRB following their approval of the growth plan in October of 2017, indicating its commitment to the importance of this work for the long-term sustainability and prosperity of the Edmonton region, metropolitan region. Objectives: conserve adequate supply for local food security, minimize fragmentation, promote diversification and value-added production. So this is the region that they formed around this. This is the city, I believe, and here's the region. This is some of its farmland. The region has to include rural sections because obviously they can't rely on urban farming setups alone for food. Yeah, you can't just grow all your food in vertical farms in the city. You have to have some rural land. So it's Perry Rural or Perry Farms, PRERI Farms land. That means it's close to the city, just outside the city limits. That's what they would call the Perry farmland. However, in our vision, everyone in the urban landscape would grow food in their own backyard if they. See, this is our vision I'm talking about here. That would create independence and also community because people would barter and exchange goods. That's the way you solve the problem. Is everyone goes in their backyard. Remember the victory gardens? You grow food in your own yard, and you trade with people. That's how you solve food crises. Crises. I hate that word, crises. But that's not how they want to do it. That doesn't fill their technocratic wet dreams. No. We gotta read the regional food agriculture development. A resilient food and agriculture system that contributes to the local economy and overall cultural, financial, social, and environmental sustainability of Edmonton. Or the city, Edmonton is the example. They even did a Food Hub's contest recap and winner of fresh meat. And look how they spelled meat, all creepy like. Our fresh meat micro fundraiser was success. Was a sex? No, it was a success. 120 people came in to hear pitches about 7 great new food initiatives in Edmonton and vote on their favorite. Food for Good won 1,700 to put towards their food hub. 1,200 came from the ticket price, and who cares? So yeah, these people won, and here's their food design. Their food hub. This would be a local food hub. This would serve, say, a district. Because what they plan to do in cities, specifically, is you'll have your rural land, the prairie farmland, would be the outside. I've explained this several times in videos. I'm just going to do it real quick. This is what our food system's transitioning to. This is how cities will feed when they bring all the people into their cities, their smart cities. You got to feed these people. And this is one part of it, because you will have some fresh food and stuff. But there's also more gross stuff that's coming with that. But let's talk about this real quick. So you got your prairie farmland around the city, the mega region. I guess each municipality will be mixed in with the municipalities in the city. That's your region's got prairie farmland. That's the outer section, right? The regional. So there'll be regional food hubs where all the food's delivered to these regional hubs. Then those will be dispersed out to the local food hubs. You'll have in the cities, you'll have them in districts. They'll call them 15-minute cities, where they divide up these districts, where anyone in the district, these communities, will have everything they need will be within 15 minutes of wherever they are. 15-minute cities. So they'll break them up in districts, and they'll all be about 15 minutes to go around. So the use for a car will be less needed, right? Now, all these districts will be connected through what they call corridors, and they'll be limited to 1 or 2 corridors, right? Don't think these corridors won't be guarded, and you won't be able to access your neighboring district without permission. So you have your food hub, like this right here, the food hub, these things. This is just a concept photo. Little food hub. It's got like either those are solar panels or little greenhouses on top. There's some garden up there. There will be some fresh food grown there. Whether or not it's GMO, who knows? This is to be seen in the future. Anyway, so you got the regional food hubs will deliver to these local hubs, and you'll have your access at that food hub. You'll have in your 15-minute. There might be more than one. I don't know how it will actually work. It might have one food hub. Maybe there's 2 in each district. Depends on density, I guess. And that's where you access your food. Unless, of course, you don't play nice. Then you don't get food. So they distribute it from the regional to the local, and then grocery stores won't exist. They'll be food hubs, or they'll be government controlled food stores you have to line up to, or you'll be lining up at the food hub. So that's basically the concept of what's going to happen in the future. There was a great explanation of food hubs, by Rosa Quarry, who also passed away. Wait, this isn't even the video. Or is it? Yeah. Yeah. This is the video. Rosa Quarry does a great explanation. Unfortunately, that video must have been taken down, whatever channel it was on. I think it's also on BitChute. I'll have to grab it. It's a great video. She talks about it. So yeah, let's move on. There's also, I've talked about many times, the New Order of Barbarians, excuse me, where Lawrence Duggan talks about what they were talking about. Food shortages could be created really quickly. Excuse me. Food supplies would come under tight control if population growth didn't slow down. Food shortages could be created in a hurry, and people would realize the dangers of overpopulation. Ultimately, whether production or population slows down or not, which it is slowing down, the food supply is to be brought under centralized control so that people would have enough to be well nourished, and they would not have enough to support fugitive from the new system. In other words, if you had a friend or relative who didn't sign on, that is to the New World Order agenda, growing one. See, that tape got interrupted, so you don't hear the rest of it. Growing one's own food would be outlawed. This would be done under some sort of pretext. In the beginning, I mentioned there were two purposes for everything, and one an ostensible purpose and the real purpose. And the ostensible purpose here would be that growing your own vegetable was unsafe. That would spread disease or something like that. So the acceptable idea was to protect the consumer, but the real idea was to limit the food supply. Therefore, growing your own food would be illegal, and if you persist in illegal activities like growing your own food, then you're a criminal. And what have we been seeing in 2020? And we're going to see some more, without a doubt. Man poisoned after eating potentially lethal homegrown corrugate. Oh no, he was poisoned. Deadly homegrown food. An amateur gardener was reported having the worst illness he has ever had after accidentally poisoning himself from eating corrugates he grew in his garden. He explained, "I can't describe what it was like. The taste was instantly horrific. I felt that Satan himself had done his business on my tongue. My mouth was on fire." So anyways, they talk about how it's not safe to get seeds from local people, from people you know. You should always get them from commercially sold seeds and all that nonsense. Here's another one from 2020. Toxic squash syndrome. And Kansas officials about mystery packages of potentially dangerous seeds from China. Remember that whole psyop there? Well, that it resulted in you can't buy the seeds on Amazon anymore. Amazon banned sales of foreign seeds in the U.S. So you can no longer access the seeds from, say, someone selling it locally, or not locally, but selling it on Amazon. Some of their own locally grown seeds. And of course, they always talk about the salmonella, listeria. No, that's Ebola. Not Ebola. Ebola. What's the other one? E. coli. E. coli. E. coli. E. coli. Outbreaks. Back here, chickens and ducks, and now with the bird flu stuff. So there you go there. And that is that. Oh yeah, a New Order Barbarians I was talking about. More predictive stuff in there. Equitable prosperity of food, the supply chains. Yeah, so let's just go on there. Food Supply Protection Act 2020. A bill to protect the continuity of the food supply chain in the United States in response to COVID-19 and for other purposes. But yeah. Commodity Credits Corporation. What's this one about? Commodity Credits Corporation is a wholly owned United States corporation that was created in 1933 to stabilize, support, and protect farm income and prices. To authorized buy, sell, and payments. Is this relevant to what I'm talking about? I think I just get back into. Oh, there you go. There's a stadium with the food stock. They were stacking up the stadium there. It's crazy. The pandemic logistics hub. Food supplies. It's all 2020 stuff, people. So yeah, pickles. All right, I think. Oh yeah, that's an interesting part. I'm not going to talk about that. There's a Global Food Council. I'm just gonna be right back. Hold on. Right back. Let's see. Urging people to eat less meat, which could have big climate impact. Oh yeah, that was China's propaganda where they were using celebrities to push eating less meat. And there's even a whole regional environmental change. What would you call this PDF here? Reducing meat consumption in developed and transition countries to counter climate change and biodiversity loss. Review of influence factors. Yeah, so this one actually talks about the promotion of new social norms, e.g., by encouraging people to move in widening social circles that have fresh attitudes about food and personal integrity. Orion and Stokely, whatever, 2015. This was achieved by means of different strategies. One is to stress the role of vegan or vegetarian opinions leaders as role models for those who feel insecure about their decision to avoid meat and other animal products or feel under social pressure not to change their dietary habits. Many prominent role models are taking a lead. Actors, singers, TV presenters, politicians, sports people such as Paul McCartney, Bill Clinton, Mike Tyson, Ben Stiller, Michelle Pfeiffer, Demi Moore, Johnny Depp, and Kate Winslet are constantly making their views on meat consumption publicly known. Dib and Fitzpatrick 2014. These role models could be a way to enable participants to feel pride and personal esteem in the doing the sustainably right thing, even when others around them are not doing the same. KFC 3D printed chicken nuggets. Would you eat them? No. 3D bioprinting technology is initially widely recognized in medicine. This basically means KFC is using chicken cells and plant-based material to create a new kind of nugget. Welcome to the future of fast food. 3D printed fake meat, the healthier, greener future of food. France 21. There's your 3D printed fake meat. We can do the entire cow, not only one part of the cow, steaks, roasts, slow cooking, grilling, everything that an animal can do. We want to do the same, or even better, said Ben Shitrit. He's Shitrit. We want to work with more and more chefs around the world, more and more big distributors, and we don't see a reason that this cannot be on the table of everybody in every country around the world. Israel firm Redefined Meat is using 3D printing technology to produce plant-based steaks designed to mimic real meat and plans to start selling them in restaurants later this year, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Israel food tech firm announced a successful test on way to 3D print to meet 3D printing. Here we go. Is your 2020 Israel startup Savor Beats. This one's really gross. Has developed an automated closed system that 3D prints and cooks plant-based meat alternatives for food service. This robot can replace manufacturing practices, CEO Rochelle Visman tells Food Navigator. The startup has developed a robot for food services that appears to do it all, personalized in 3D plant-based meats alternatives before grilling them according to your cooking preference, all within 6 minutes. Savor Eats has teamed up with the Israeli burger chain Burgess Burger Bar, BBB, Build Back Better, and plans to set up pilot in the facility within a year, making Israel the first country to bring 3D printed food to the masses. Startup co-founder Jelly Visman told Food Navigator, interested in upcycling. So, upon further investigation, Visman connected the researchers from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem facility or faculty of agriculture and became interested in upcycling project. We sought to recreate meat from meat waste products such as collagen using 3D printing. Which Visman wasn't sold on the meat aspect. She was inspired by the team's approach on building a final product from basic ingredients in protein and fat. It struck me that this could be a full solution, she recalled, but we needed to move the concept away from meat products towards meat alternatives. Scroll down here, 3 years on, the CEO sees the plant-based sector moving in a slightly different direction. In the future, it will no longer be purely about mimicking the taste and texture of meat. She explained it will be about personalization. That means that you can make whole new things that never existed before. That's going to be your food, people. Food as software. And then I covered that down the road here. Stored room, so you can store these things. The cellulose derivative is mixed with plant-based proteins and fats. The ingredients can be packaged into cartridges and stored at room temperature for up to 6 months without the need for refrigeration. We are skipping the entire process of transportation and refrigeration. Unlike the startups of plant-based burger betters, Savor Meats offering comes with an automated closed system that grills the burger itself with no human touch. You're not going to have to do anything, people. You won't have to cook for yourself. This robot becomes a mini manufacturer at your facility. Don't forget. Don't think it's not going to be on your countertop eventually. The 3D bioprinter will play a major role in the future of food production. They are small, programmable, versatile. Remember the replicator of Star Trek, The Next Generation. I believe that was indeed predictive programming. Of course it was. So yeah. Then Rethink X. Remember them? I talked about them a bunch. They were talking about food as software. 2012 to 2023, the costs of protein in the U.S. from cows versus precision biology food technology will reach parity, says independent think tank Rethink X. It will be a tipping point after which acceptance of modern foods will accelerate quickly, leaving the cattle industry effectively bankrupt by 2030 and 5 years later down to 10% of its current size. Rethink X starting predictions are published in a report released September 16th. This is 2019. Rethinking Food and Future Agriculture 2020 to 2030. Second domestication of the plants and animals. Disruption of the cow and the collapse of the industrial livestock farming. Ramifications, the group says, will be profound, far-reaching, and overwhelmingly positive. Affecting people everywhere, and some things are about to change big time. Building food better, or building better food. Building food better, I like that better. Microorganisms are at the heart of the coming disruption, and they were when humanity began domesticating plants. As they were when humanity began domesticating plants and animals 10,000 years ago by manipulating the evolution of microorganisms by the breeding of their macroorganisms within about 1,000 years. We were controlling microorganisms through fermentation, producing bread, cheese, alcohol, preserving our fruits and vegetables. The protein disruption will be followed by the collapse of a wide range of related and supporting industries by 2035. It will be, according to the researchers, the deepest, fastest, most consequential disruption in food and agriculture production since the first domestication of plants and animals 10,000 years ago. Aren't we starting to see that great disruption now? Funny how these people knew it was coming so soon. So things are basically stored for thousands of years, harvesting the nutrients, blah, blah, blah. Intensive breeding, extracting, consuming the organisms in which microorganisms reside. It's the microorganisms, though, that we are really after. Unplugged from the macroorganism, we can build nutrients ourselves, programming complex molecules using precision fermentation. Rethink says, and each ingredient will serve a specific purpose, allowing us to create foods with the exact attributes we desire in terms of the nutritional profile, structure, taste, texture, and functional qualities. Even better, the report predicts that future food will be more nutritious, tastier, and more convenient with much greater variety. That means you will be able to program and create your own food with whatever taste you want from the convenience of your countertop as you have your state-issued 3D printer. Rethink X coins, a term for worldwide informational platforms serving future food production, food as software. Consists of databases of engineered molecules, molecule cookbooks, if you will, that allows for decentralized, stable, and resilient production anywhere. Rethink X sites fermentation farms even in densely populated areas. So, yeah, you're in your big smart city there. You could print off a lot of food with the macro or microorganisms. It will provide a means for the continual reiteration and perfection of food molecules. It will also signify a move from centralized system dependence on scarce resources to a distribution system based on abundant resources. The cow must go. Protein disruption and nanobyte consumption by 2030. That was my article I wrote where I first talked about when I addressed the Rethink X article. There's also the WWF. That was part of the food chain reaction. They're trying to build an indoor farming revolution. So there's a lot of plans, people, to turn our food into a regional, city-based system of food production. We won't be importing, exporting so much. That'll be I think, very just for the elites or rich people kind of thing. I mean, the most importing, exporting you're going to do on the individual basis will probably be sequences, food sequence codes. It'll be transferred. You'll send it on the internet or something on your government-controlled internet. What you're allowed to do: exchange genetic food sequence. What was it? I was trying to say. You can send your codes to each other. Your little cookbooks, sequence cookbooks for your 3D printer. The city caves are what am I reading? Oh, this is part of it. I don't want to read that. IMBF blog or IMF. What am I saying? IMF blog. Why sustainable food systems are needed in a post-COVID world. So yeah. Oh, a hunger pandemic. That's right. They were using that word in 2020 a lot. Hunger pandemic and a doubling of people starving may soon eclipse the Kobe. Oh boy, that sounds serious. All right. That's why I'm writing about this stuff. Now the question is, what are their plans to save us? Exactly. Food and Agriculture Organization, United Nations Program, United Nations Environment Program. Sorry, I'm not reading very well. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the International Fund for Agriculture Development, and the World Food Program collectively suggest 4 broad shifts in the food system. Yes, they do, don't they? And I talk about mega regions. There's the emerging mega regions that you'll have in the U.S. here. There's one. There's another. There, 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 and there, and a lot of this will be untouchable land. You will be allowed in there. There's some smaller stuff here, but mostly a lot of this gray is the stuff you're not allowed to be in. Be conservation land. America 2050 is Regional Plan Association National Infrastructure Planning and Policy Program, providing leadership on the broad range of transportation, sustainability, and economic development issues impacting America's growth in the 21st century. A major focus in America's 2050 is the emergence of mega regions, large networks of metropolitan areas where most of the population growth by mid-century will take place. Examples of mega regions are the Northeast mega region from Boston to Washington or Southern California, from Los Angeles to Tijuana, Mexico. Megaregions comprise multiple adjacent metropolitan areas connected by overlapping communities, patterns, business travel, environmental landscapes, and watersheds, linked economies, and social networks. America 2050 has identified 11 megaregions in the United States. So America 2050 is a website you could visit. They've changed the name and stuff now. It's no longer called America 2050. I can't remember what it became, but it's different now. But this is the old map they had made of America 2050. Yeah, so there you go. That's your regional food system in a nutshell. Now, what was this one? What did I want to show here? This was my part 2 of food. Problem, food chain reaction, bear solutions, part 2. Syndemic was the one I was talking about, and that was a lot to do with what they were going to do with the Kobe is syndemic. But yeah, that's not the part I wanted to talk about. I was wanted to talk about because obesity was going to be part of the syndemic, right? The 4, it was going to be Kobe, HIV, I think it's drug problems and obesity. Oh, there we go. The quadruple threat. The Lancet Commission published its report, The Global Syndemic of Obesity, Undernutrition. Oh, undernutrition. So fatty, skinny, and climate change. And then this would include the Kobe, within which is cause for a radical rethink of business models, food systems, civil society involvement, and national and international governments to address the concurrent epidemics. Holistic effort to reorient human systems to achieve better human and planetary health, and our most important and urgent challenge, noted the Commission at the time. We know that 75% of infectious diseases originate from animals, and the fact that our food system, especially industrial agriculture, is continuing to degrade and encroach on our wild environments and increase our contact with animals and increase the inequalities that we see in a society. It makes clear we must not only address consumption behaviors, but we must also address the way that we produce food together using all evidence available to us. So yeah, shrink the food agricultural land that we grow on and make it more conservation land. And that's what we saw with Biden trying to buy out the farmers so they wouldn't grow food. So let's say I'm gonna show you. Go. I think so. This is the Lancet Commission. The global syndemic of obesity and undernutrition. There was something else I had out there. If I could find it really quick here. It's kind of important thing I wanted to show you. Shouldn't take long to find. Just had a thought there. It's like, hey. I think it was in that same report they did. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Is it here? Where is it? Yeah, right here. I think this is the same article, same report. Should be, yeah. Here was something I forgot to mention before, or when I was covering that part. Strong civil society organizations protected by legislation, they write, aspiring that a global social, you know what, will enable a way of living that is healthy, just, convivial, and sustainable, and will inoculate future societies against a return to a world growing increasingly less healthy. It's all for your health, people. Fran Baum and Sharon Friel recently proposed the need for a social as well as biological, you know what, to solve the challenge of Kobe. They argued in the Medical Journal of Australia that we need to go beyond a biomedical vision for solving the syndemic by a social vaccine. They mean a metaphor designed to shift the dominant biomedical orientation of the health sector towards the blah 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 blah. Anyways, I thought that was quite astonishing. Governments, that is, just each of their requirements and different components of a social vaccine, a life with the security demands of a universal system to guarantee social protection, employment and shelter, progressive taxation, and international treaties to ensure peace and security. Opportunities that are fair include a minimum universal and free education, racial, sex, disability, discrimination laws, decent jobs and environments that enable healthy choice. A planet that is habitable requires a zero carbon future, protection of biodiversity, and the elimination of fossil fuel subsidies. Finally, governance that is just means a universal franchise, robust systems of political accountability, and strong civil society organizations protected by legislation. They write inspiringly that a global social vaccine will enable a new way of living that is healthy, just, convivial, sustainable, blah, blah, blah. So that was the whole thing. Anyways, let's just pop in there for a minute. So let's go. Get that out of there. The Syndemic. Now, here's the reimagining food systems driving action for a post-Kobe world. This is the Eat Lancet and the Rockefeller Foundation working together to destroy your food systems, or reimagine them once they've been destroyed. But here, I get down to the Eat Lancet thing because it was like very similar what I read earlier. Was it the World Food Program they were talking about? However, the food and vector-borne disease expert said global changes such as rapid growth of human populations must be taken into consideration. Over the past 50 years, our population has doubled, whilst our meat consumption and our demand for animal products has actually tripled. So said Kelly. So we would argue that there are links between diet-related diseases and the increase in the westernization of our diets as a whole. In terms of innovation, there is a significant opportunity and an opportunity we do not want to miss in terms of harnessing this surging concern for environmental sustainability in food, especially within our young population. This offers another reason to eat well, which doesn't always revolve around body size. Okay, you can be fat and happy too. Understand the effects of consuming mycoprotein. Is it supposed to be micro? I don't know. It's spelled funny. And quorum products. Oh, it's a brand name. Quorum products more generally in a variety of populations. She revealed an advancing genuine understanding of the mechanisms of these effects. Such initiatives, together with the sharing of the best evidence available, are designed to help advance multiple agendas. Kelly continued, we believe that we need not only better support in terms of addressing the symptoms, but we need a full-scale nutrition transition towards healthy and sustainable diets. Nutrition transition. It's just a video. I lost my channel, so I was terminated by YouTube. At least my main channel. Food system transformation may require unprecedented level of global cooperation. Yes, let's get that global governance for food. Global Food Council, everyone. Food systems have the potential to nurture human health and support environmental sustainability. However, they are currently threatening both. Universal reference diet. Remember? Universal reference diet. The Eat Lancet. The sentence openings, blah, blah, blah. Good news is the massive food systems transformation is possible. The bad news is that putting it into action will require an unprecedented level of global cooperation. Yes, what will create this global cooperation? A global crisis, right? Food chain reaction, the falling dominoes. They have the cooperation is called Agenda 21. Yeah, no kidding. Forewarned agenda, food to be brought under centralized control. That was I read it out to you about the New Order of Barbarians. This was actually a video snippet of it that I had on my channel that got terminated, so that's why it's not there. So here we go. To fully realize the recommendations laid out by the Eat Lancet report, policymakers will need to prioritize food systems as a top development agenda. Researchers have an important role in providing the evidence of what works and potential trade-offs of policymakers so they can adapt and prioritize to our local food context, said Jessica Franzo, professor at Johns Hopkins University, Eat Lancet co-author, and the lead of the 2017 high-level panel of experts report on nutrition and food systems. Here's a recent study looking into how U.S. cities feed themselves. So here's a study that came out in 2020, September 14, 2020, about cities feeding themselves. And this, right, regional food systems I was talking about. Some, but not all U.S. metro areas could grow all needed food locally, estimates study. Researchers estimate potential for locally sourced food based on land needs for different diets. Here we go. The results suggest metro centers in the northeast and interior of the country have the greatest potential for localization. Large portions of the population among the eastern seaboard and the southwest corner of the U.S. would have the least potential for localization. Surplus land existed under all diet scenarios, raising questions about the best use of land for meeting health, environmental, and economic goals. Locally, this point, diets with less than half the current consumption of meat supported similar levels of localization potential, whether omnivore or vegetarian consumption of meat, beef, pork, chicken, turkey for the baseline typical American diet was estimated roughly 5 ounces per day. There would be different ways to do it. Imagine if we cut back to fewer than 2.5 ounces per day by serving smaller portions of meat and replacing some meat-centric entrees with plant-based alternatives like lentils, beans, nuts, more diverse sources of protein. Yeah, like your food is software protein. Could open new possibilities for local food. Yeah, it's printed in your local shop, so it's local. Under all the diet scenarios, the model projected the United States having a surplus of land for meeting domestic food needs. In the current American agriculture system, some farmland is used for biofuels and export crops. We'll be needing those. Researchers point out that if metro centers focus on eating locally, many agricultural areas would face new questions about the local land use properties. This was the Tufts University Health Sciences Campus. Summary, yeah, so they did that study. The question is why, what the hell happened to this? The question is why, Syndemic happened in some countries have literally closed their borders, cutting off the exports. So yeah, they're doing that now, just like they did then. Chicken wings are testing positive for the Kobe crops and livestock farms being shut down. Okay, so yeah. And I talked about the indoor food ration, the rubbish bin, all that stuff. Yeah, I talked about the equity, Syndemic, for technology. There. This is the Eat Lancet Commission. Let's just look at their infinity, their Ouroboros. Ouroboros food system here. And I'm going to end this pretty funny, so their Ouroboros stuff. That's goal 12 of Sustainable Development Goals. The UN Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17. Ensure sustainable consumption. Am I still recording? Yeah, I gotta wrap it up soon. Sustainable consumption and production patterns. There's your snake. So there's your lose-lose situation. Too much land and water being used. Your win-win is the very minimal. So your healthy diets. Hey everyone, you can still have beef 14 grams per day or more on your birthday. Yeah, they recommend just 14 grams a day of your beef, lamb, and pork. These are micronutrient intake grams per day. Calorie intake per day. Just ridiculous. Here's your strategies. Strategy 1. Seek an international and national commitment to shift towards healthy diets. Considering most governments are already on board with sustainable development, shouldn't be a problem there. Strategy 2. Reorient agricultural priorities from producing high qualities of food to producing healthy food. And then, shrink food production. Well, with all the spontaneous bakery shop and pickle factory fires, etc., the farms and meat closures due to Kobe testing, etc., I'd say they're well on track for that as well. Strategy 3, sustainably intensify food production to increase high quality output. Sustainably intensify? That doesn't make any sense. They want to shrink the land and stuff you can grow on, but they want to increase the amount you make. So what does that lead to? And here's an insane thing. Strategy 4, strong coordinated governance of land and oceans. This implies feeding humanity on existing agricultural land, i.e., by implementing a zero expansion policy of new agricultural land to natural ecosystems and species-rich forests, aiming management policies at restoring and reforesting degraded land, establishing international land use governance mechanisms, and then adopting a half-Earth strategy for biodiversity conservation, i.e., conserve at least 80% of pre-industrial species richness by protecting the remaining 50% of Earth and its intact ecosystems. They want to reduce the amount of Earth we live on by 50%. You get to live half of the Earth. That means they're going to take a lot of land away from you people. Moreover, there is a need to improve the management of the world's oceans, ensure that fisheries do not negatively impact ecosystem fish stocks, and utilize responsibly in global aquaculture, production, and expanded sustainability. And yeah, so that led me to the UK to convert half farmland to nature, or just top scientists. That was an urgent thing. And then they brought the 30 by 30 plan in. And I said how the conservation nut jobs want Canada to take 50% and lock it up in conservation, but there's no real reason to, because so much of our land is untouched already. Boris Johnson pledges to protect 30% of UK's land by 2030 to support recovering in nature. This is why the 30 by 30 promise must now be put into domestic laws, as well as suit goals to restore the abundance of diversity of wildlife in every country in the UK. Wild Trust said it was a good start. It's a good start. 3% good start. Good start. Strategy 5. At least half food losses and waste in line with these UN Sustainable Development Goals. I already covered the food waste issue, so we'll move on to the conclusion. Yeah. So here's the head ho of the Eat Lancet Commission, and she looks strikingly similar to what's her face on Rocky IV, the wife of the boxer dude. This guy, big Russian dude. Look at her. Look at this bitch. All right. Anyways, Food Crisis 2021 and beyond. By now, surely you are aware that we are in a food crisis. This was all planned. Back in 2015, there was a source-funded simulation. And yeah, I talk about food chain reaction. And then the same points I made before. You gotta repeat things or people are not gonna pick up on it. This food crisis will exacerbate non-communicable diseases. This included mental health, by the way, which COVID-19 is being merged with. Voila! Now we're tackling the syndemic, which happens to have a plan ready to go, e.g., reset the table, eat Lancet Commission, etc. Bam, Agenda 2030. There's much darker things to come, but I'll save that for another day. Right now, I'm telling you, they are moving the goalposts to bait and switch. The target and approach to the COVID pandemic is about to change. Let me get the word out, call out this narrative, tell your friends, tell your truth friends what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Another way they're going to feed everybody is not just 3D printed foods from molecules that they custom created. Take a little guess. Here's a little bit of predictive programming by the Yes Men. And we'll end it on this video.
The program isn't actually completely ready yet. So, as you can see here, there's a consumer in the first world entering McDonald's and consuming a hamburger. And afterward, this is a process we're all familiar with. I don't need to explain it to anyone. But you see, it's rendered out in this style because studies have shown that consumers are most responsive to 3D animation right now, particularly in developing cultures. So you can see it goes through a piping system, and this isn't unusual. We do this for oil. We could do this for food as well. And as you can see, it goes back up through the plumbing and emerges in a McDonald's. Now, the part of this video that isn't completed yet is the filtering process. There will be a very well-rendered filtering and as you can see, this might answer somebody's question from before, but at the McDonald's in a developing country, and in fact in this country as well, you would be able to choose the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 would no longer refer to combinations of food, but rather just the number of times the product had been recycled. We're lucky to be able to partner with the World Trade Organization, which has slightly different goals. Of course, McDonald's goals are to profit and grow, and we hope that we can provide a nutritious and tasty product in the process.
Our goals are to help McDonald's profit and grow, and all other corporations. So.
I think you guys,
So yeah,
the WTO is kind of.
That's a little bit of predictive programming for you. But I mean, I was talking about this for a long time too. If we just, oops, no, that's not what I want. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it in just a search. I know I'm typing it like 8-shit venomous, but this might work for actually searching it. No? Oh wait, no, that's not what it's called. Where is it? Eat. Ah. That work? Ah. I'm not gonna be able to find it like that. Come on. I still have the bug ones up. Bug article I do. Maybe. Is it down here maybe? Which one did I write first? No, I didn't write that one. Damn. Okay, I can find it. I can find it, folks. Just give me a second. It's. No, I don't know if I can find it fast enough. Okay, let me try one more search. If I can't find it, I give up on that. I think I did that. Might help to just search it here. Come on. Just want to show you. That's it, but I don't think I can look it up here. As long as I'm not signed in, I should be able to look at the post. I'm not allowed to go on my account. Not unless I delete my tweet. Oh, come on. Seriously? No! Still not allowed on it since December 23rd, 2021. Unless I cancel my appeal, which I won. It's not fair. I don't want to be signed in. Log me out and let me look at it. Whoa, did it just sign me back in? Stop it. There we go. There we go. I got it. Sweet. I'll wrap this up real soon, I promise. So, yeah. Gent, see, they've been programming your kids for years to look at food like this, or look at poop like this, like it's food. It's subtle, but it's all food programming, right? Get your kids playing with shit all the time and their stupid, weird board games, fishing for floaters. What the heck, man? Shit spinners. Sparkly critter poop seed. Feeding, like, oh my god, you step in shit. Doggy do. Poop hats. Poop slime. Lots of poop slime. Playing with toilets. Unicorn poop. Poopsters? What the heck, man? They're looking at a dog's ass right there. This disgusting thing that makes the poop ice cream. There's your emoji poop. Super cool poopy slime. Yeah, it's so cool. There's more. There's that creepy unicorn. There's the one you feed it its own shit. There you go. Shit. Fishing for turds. Magical unicorn poop. Those things. Don't think they're not programming your kids to see it as food. There's that shirt. It's so happy. La la. It's wonderful. She's got a shit beard, probably from scatology. He's eating, or, you know, whatever they call it. They eat ass. Eat, sleep, pay. Okay, so there's poop eating pizza and tacos. It goes on. There's actual recipes to make unicorn poop cookies and stuff like that. They're slime. There is cookie recipes. There you go. Unicorn rainbows and yep. There's candy there. Lots of YouTube videos on how to make that stuff. There's been a lot of social programming there, and there's that creepy commercial with the guy and he eats the ice cream. He just loves it, and of course it's a rainbow because it came out of a unicorn. That's the stuff like that. And there's your Bill Gates poop water. We've all seen that. Then there's, you know, astronauts eat Vegemite made from shit, and there's your creepier, safer sex guide that was exposed to young kids, and there's your scatology, or no, scatophilia. That's what it is. Then there's shit beer, and then recently they came out with the whole DARPA. There's the it's feeding its own waste to it. Yeah, and she's drinking literal shit Slurpee there. But yeah, they've been programming your kids for this for a long time because that's what's going to happen. That's going to be part of the food. It's going to be derived. It's going to be fermented from your sewage. They're going to turn your sewage into food and feed it to you. It's going to be this circular food chain. It's not just going to be a circular economy and your regional food thing. Part of the food system will be your circular food chain. means it cycles back into Ouroboros. You're eating your own tail, now you're eating your own shit if you're not eating each other. That's what's coming out of it. That's part of it. Anyways, that's gross, but that's something I've seen in the programming a long time ago, and I wrote this article 3 years ago. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today. I'm over 2 hours now. My throat's getting shredded here, and I've got stuff to do today. So thank you so much if you were able to stick with me for this whole video. I appreciate your time and attention as always. If you want to support the channel, you can like and share this video. If you'd like to support further, please consider a donation or whatever you want to do to support this channel further. I don't care. As long as you are watching and sharing, it's really cool with me. If you want to do more, that's super cool. But yeah, love you all the same. Thank you so much for your time and attention. With that said, I am Venomous reporting for the Brave New World. I'll catch you all next time. Oops.
Are you talking to me? No way, Paul!